Hey guys, it's your best fight friends. That's Rachel. I'm Kelly. There's a lot of stuff to talk about after UFC 269. Amazing!
So we didn't do live reactions, but we had to come on here and react because it was crazy. So let's talk about, to me, the craziest thing was the co-main event. And that was Amanda Nunes facing off against Julianna Pena. And everybody says they can do it. Everybody's like, I'm going to win. I'm going to beat, whoever the great is. Well, if she did not come in there and do it.
Yeah, it's seldom you see, such an historic upset. And something that, I was at the press conference where she basically clubber-langed the situation. Remember where in Houston, she was like, bring Amanda here now and we'll fight. I heard she passed her latest COVID test because remember, they were supposed to fight here in Houston and they didn't because of Amanda tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy to me that, I don't remember that in recent history of somebody just being so adamant and being such a huge underdog. Amanda was minus 1,000 or something like that. And that, most people thought it was just an afterthought. And on top of that, to add to what I'm saying, she was pretty much getting whooped in the first round. Right? I was like, oh, she survived. Because it didn't seem like she was going to survive the first round. And yet she won and finished her in the second round.
Although it was surprisingly, surprisingly because who she was in there with skillfully survived that round.
Yeah.
There were times where it was Amanda has her, and then she, with a move, because that's the thing with grappling, and this gets into details that I'm not,
I don't know about them.
familiar enough with in MMA, but there are small moves and small things that you do with your body that mean the difference between you getting submitted and you making it out of the round.
Yeah.
Pena did those small things. And here's the thing, is that in between the first and second round, Amanda Nunes in her corner, she had this kind of little smile on her face. And I went, oh no, Pena has awoken the lion and she is going to come out in round two. And because she landed some shots on her in round one in that striking, when the time they were striking. And I thought, and I was just wrong. Pena came out there and wore her down almost to a point that when it got to the submission, some people are confused. And I totally get that. They're confused. They're like, wait a minute. I've been under the impression that Amanda was this unbeatable goat, all this. And then it kind of seemed like she wasn't even in that big of a hold, and she quickly submitted.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
But talk about being so worn down that then when you're submitted, fans think it was too easy. But that's how worn down maybe Amanda was.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing that I have a visible memory of the end of that first round, when they got up, I expected Pena to be a lot more beaten up than she was, and she seemed pretty fine. Remember, she was she hadn't been on the ground for 4.5 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so, that's amazing. Congrats to Julianna Pena. One of the biggest upsets, one of the most historic wins. People are comparing it to when Holly Holm defeated Ronda Rousey. It's had that feel about it, sure. What an amazing sporting event. But that wasn't even all that happened on UFC 269, Rachel.
We followed that with the main event, which was Charles Oliveira defending his title, making his first title defense against Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is coming off these very, huge fights against Conor McGregor. And because it's Conor McGregor, lots of media attention, lots of people watching, really big thing. But then you have Oliveira, right, who's on quite a win streak, right?
It's a long win streak.
Just him getting to compete for the vacant title was because of the win streak that he was on. Yep. And then here he comes to make his first title defense.
And also because Dustin wanted to fight Conor again.
Right.
Is at least why that fight happened, the other fight happened, right?
Yeah. So these two come in. We both went with the favorite. He was a slight favorite, and that was Dustin Poirier. I thought he was more skillful and going to be able to adapt, and then maybe just maybe tougher. I don't know, willing to get bloody and just be I'm going to finish and fight and be in the blood, like that kind of thing. But oh my goodness, Oliveira with his once they got into grappling, you know.
Well, he's so resilient. This is the second fight in a row where he's been like, you think, oh, he's about to be stopped. That is, someone's about to stop Charles Oliveira in the first round. Yet he won in the second round again, I think. He's a resilient guy.
Wily Coyote.
You said we both thought Dustin Poirier was more skillful. Well, we were both incredibly wrong because clearly Charles Oliveira is more skillful.
Yeah.
Of course, I knew at least that Oliveira had a great grappling background, but what I didn't know is that against somebody like Dustin Poirier, it's not just that he beat Conor, right? Remember that he also beat Justin Gaethje pretty recently. He beat Max Holloway pretty recently. This is a great fighter that that is Charles Oliveira, would be able to take all that and use that again against another good fighter, because he just fought Michael Chandler in his last fight. Man, and maybe Charles Oliveira needs to stop being underrated, right? Maybe he's the guy. He's the guy at 155.
He might be one of those fighters. Like, I'll give you two things here of why maybe he gets underrated. He's underestimated. One may be that sometimes fighters go in and they fight to the level of their opponent. So it's hard to gauge how good their opponents are because they fight to the level of the opponent. There's that thing. The other option is that we don't really know the level that all these guys are at.
I know.
You know? So there might have been, like, we don't know really what level Conor's at anymore, right? There's some question there. But, like, because what I did is I looked at Oliveira and Chandler, and I was like, that was a tough fight. I mean, back and forth. Then I saw Chandler lose his last fight, and he didn't look so great in it.
Against Justin Gaethje, another really
I went, you know, maybe Oliveira isn't as good as I just thought maybe, because I was comparing it. So you see, like, I'm comparing things and people's opponents, and it's really hard to do that.
Kids call that MMA math, and it never works, Rachel. Don't fall for it. They do that. We do that in boxing, too. Well, this guy beat this guy, so we could...
Well, that's what you have. That's all you have. We don't have seasons. We don't have, like, all the... I don't know. It's just different than team sports. So that's what we have, and, you know, I'll just apologize. I underestimated Charles Oliveira.
I did too. He's an awesome fighter.
I love him, though.
I do too, and I'll leave you with this. I got to be around him a lot when he was in Houston to fight Michael Chandler, and he's the kind of guy. There's all different types of people. He's the kind of guy that's making eye contact with everybody as like genuinely a kind human being. And I bring that up because I love that. I love when I see it, and especially he was the main event, right? He was the show. And I saw him in some of the video assets for this. He was doing the same thing behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I love when people treat every other human being as an equal human being. I love that from this guy, and I love watching him fight. He's the man.
I'll leave you with this. We just barely underestimated him. I didn't want to make a prediction for that main event because I thought it was really, I did not know who. But, like, congrats to Charles Oliveira. How do we transition? I couldn't think of anything. I kept...
It's by asking.
Thank you. And for watching. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And hey, if you have any ideas for transitions for us to end the show, you can clearly advise us. We need help.